how to lose friends and viewers on YouTube. Tell them the truth about something that they're an advocate for. Activists hate it when they get told that their entire basis for their activism is dead, and has been dead since the 80s. According to the FBI latest study, how old was it? More than 58,000 kids were abducted by non-relatives in 1 year. 800,000 children are reported missing every year in the United States. More than half end up living on the streets. 70% will become sex trafficking victims, most within the first 72 hours of living on the street. 1 in 6 runaways in 2014 were likely sex trafficking victims. And that's up from 1 in 7 in 2013. And everyone listens to these statistics, repeats them, and reposts them on Facebook because that's the ultimate place to find facts. All right. How about this one? 1.3 million children reported missing in a specific period of time, just counting all of them, by their caretakers. And anyone who were missed by a caretaker for at least an hour, but no report was filed. Hang on, that's a detail, isn't it? Oh, well, the devil's in the details. 99.8% were recovered for a total of 2,500 left. That's 0.2% not recovered. Within what period of time? Links below in the description. Go look it up. Everybody else says that. Go look it up. These are the same people who don't tell you what the study name is. I'm not going to say what the name is. Out of that actual number of 2,500, out of 1.3 million people, 1.3 million children. Think about the number of children abducted a year. Think about that for a minute. Only 115 were actually listed as what could be called a kidnapping. Not 58,000. Missing and abducted are not the same word. Most missing children are not abducted. Most abducted children aren't actually missing. After follow-ups, research and such acknowledging runaways, lost people, injured people, family abductions, benign episodes, all the stuff that actually happens you don't hear statistics about because, well, that's not part of the mainstream narrative. Almost all of them were returned in a short time later alive and relatively uninjured from whatever happened to them, while a small percentage listed as missing children are actually abducted by non-family members and would be considered the traditional version of being abducted, the one we're talking about. Comparing this to what is really being discussed here, there's a statistic for it. Sexually motivated family abductions versus sexually motivated non-family abductions. This is an actual statistic, and that's within the 115 out of 1.3 million. No one likes quoting this. Why? What are you afraid of quoting? But if you say that, I'll get to why everybody does this. And I'll get to why it's multidisciplinary or multi-lack of disciplinary reason that lots of groups won't quote these things correctly. I've done a video about this before, but I can't find it, so I'll just do it again because it's easy to look this up. Here we go. Comparing these two groups, in-family versus not in-family, sexually motivated abductions and assaults. It's probably the only aspect of sexual victimization of children that people not only get wrong, but overtly avoid quoting correctly for a simple reason. It's a family affair. It's also the reason a lot of children run away from home, and every one of you knows that, because most people know someone who is a runaway, who may still be listed as a missing children. Follow-up. Nobody does this. They don't get it wrong. It just doesn't fit your campaign narrative. Family members or trusted acquaintance will sexually victimize a child because they're capable of doing it through trust. Non-family members have a lot more trouble doing it, so they don't do it. The stereotypical thing of grabbing a kid while they're screaming at the top of their lungs and throwing them in the back of a car is a good way to get your head ripped off without a court date. Look up the number of incidences where someone has been shot dead in the face for taking someone's kid. There are actual records on this. You might like looking it up. And other cases where someone actually did get away with this, got in court, and got shot by a parent, saving us the trouble of keeping someone fed for 20 years. Non-family members abducting someone is less than a few hundred children each year. Most of them are actually returned, by the way. As for stereotypical predator images, have we gone through the numbers enough? So why do people keep lying about something you can look up and determine is wrong in the media? Okay? 1 in 6 endangered runaways in 2016 were likely. What the hell is likely? Sex trafficking victims. What's a sex trafficking victim? Anyone who engages in using sex to acquire material possession and or gain. Prostitution. Under age 18. Right? 1 in 6 endangered runaways. It doesn't say child. Someone's mixing metaphors. Look up who did. The quote's below. Look it up. Reported to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Alright. Some lament childhood independence diminishing over the generations, and then preach the danger of sexual victimization of children, that in reality comes predominantly from family members and acquaintances and not strangers, because strangers have a harder time doing it. It's an illegal activity of opportunity. The only exception to this are certain belief systems and religions, all of them actually, who put people in power and are able to get away with it with people who do not have parents. People who are in a position of power because they're taking care of children that don't have parents. People who are teachers and such. Right? Don't quote the statistic you think you know. A 2002 government study showed 800,000 children missing annually. That would be 8 million people missing in a decade. Missing. See also studies derived from data collected between 1997 and 99. Yeah, a 3-year period of time. Mainly from telesurveys after the fact in 1999. 16,000 adults, caregivers, and 5,000 youths were asked about this. The results were then weighted based on census data and extrapolated to a larger number, with an error bias range of 95%, which means it could be completely garbage or underestimating or overestimating by a factor of 10 or 20 to 1. That's really useful. Let's look for the least likely source instead of looking up the actual listings of reported missing persons and then finding out if they were found 5 years later. Most statistics that are retrieved from the FBI are monthly or yearly. If you do a 5-year check, almost everybody was found because they ran away from home, sometimes because they were molested in family. These follow-up results are never published because the numbers drop. 99.8% of these people are not missing or dead, which is the claim. Yes, this is about Pizzagate. Oh, thousands of children every year are stolen and then used for something and then killed. Or they're sent overseas. Nobody counts overseas data. Yes, they do. Catching somebody transporting someone overseas in some countries is an immediate death sentence. And, oh, no. For some reason, the police that everybody claims is out to get them and wants to give you a ticket for jaywalking won't blow your brains out for being a child predator. Of course. That makes complete sense. That is a twisted up universe for you to live in. Telesurvey data. Not based on actual incidents. When you look up the incidents, 115 out of 1.3 million are qualifiable as the stereotypical predator cases. Some are unsolved. The FBI never clears an unsolved case. They also can't clear it if you don't contact them and say, I found my kid. So they're left on the books. Eventually they do a backup check. About 2 or 3 years later, they call up the family. Oh no, we found him 2 days later. We just didn't bother contacting the police. Estimates are based on small sample sizes. Every single statistical failure you can do here. Therefore, precision and confidence interval are unreliable. That's a notice on one of them. Incidents may meet the legal definition of abduction, but not meet anybody else's. The legal definition of abduction, you might want to look it up. Okay, next. An extremely small percentage of runaways end up homeless. Most of them don't. A few end up in prostitution. It's not sex trafficking. Let's stop using generic terms. For a period of time, at least once. As in, maybe they slept with someone that was a boyfriend or girlfriend. A lot of people run away. Some people do this actually become prostitutes. None of those were considered abducted because they ran away from home. Some were guilty of sexual exploitation in home, but that's not counted in the statistics. People love messing with statistics. Now I'm going to bring up Ted Gunderson. Joined the FBI in 1951. Was head of the FBI in 1977. Actually, he was the head of the Los Angeles Bureau, not the FBI. 1979, he was one of a handful that was interviewed for the job of FBI director for the country. But after he retired, he didn't get picked. He retired eventually, and he joined in the warnings about the supposed proliferation of satanic ritual abuse, secret groups, and societies pointing fingers at people, as seen in a 1995 Dallas conference video, but never produced any evidence before his claims were posted. This is explicitly against current policies, rules, and laws observed by the legal system, the FBI, and anybody trying to keep a chain of evidence, which would have immediately disqualified him from being in the FBI because you're making a spurious claim and not offering evidence. At no time during the period of time this man posted anything did he post facts that backed up anything. Why? Because he didn't present evidence that resulted in any arrest. It's extremely difficult in these cases. Really? You can get arrested because I claim that you're Satan if I want to. But nobody got arrested for this because they'd listen to him and ask him simply, victim. Any? No. Okay. Who did it? I don't know. He's an expert witness. His son has claimed that he worked on the JFK and the Marilyn Monroe cases, and I do recommend his book on how to locate anyone anywhere because it's a good deal of data in it. I really do. Well, let's talk about this subject for reals. No, he wasn't the FBI director. The Denver Post, 1986, won a Pulitzer Prize for public service for exposing the dubious and exaggerated statistics associated with missing children in general, specifically satanic ritual abuse that was being revealed as being a gigantic meme used mostly for going after people during custody disputes that always blows up. Lies proliferate. The in-depth study of missing children. It revealed that most are involved in custody disputes or runaways, and which helped mitigate the national fears at the time stirred by exaggerating statistics. Yet the media still misuses this data and frightens in a frightening and unhelpful way. Fear sells. Who's buying? Did you know that the majority of the money spent by the U.S. government to try to prevent this is spent on advertising and advertising companies to put up logos and statements all over the net and on billboards everywhere? It's not actually spent in investigating cases, nor is it done in follow-up to determine that these numbers are inflated because the kids went home and people forgot to report them not missing. Don't believe me? I want you to immediately go to your local police department and ask them, number one, are most of the cases not reported as being found, or most of them eventually found, period. And number two, ask them whether or not people exaggerate these cases. And number three, very importantly, ask them what would happen if someone lied about a case like this. Is there a punishment? Do this now. If you're going to bother bringing up this subject, do what I did today and just ask. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And stop invalidating actual cases where people go missing or exploited or killed by lying about them.